Okay, this job here is to replace this pump. It's noisy when it's running, and there's also a leak here. So this leak should just require tightening up. That's a 28mm valve on that side and a 15 there, 22 there, sorry. They look good, the valves. They look in good condition. I'm often looking for any leaks on this seam here, where the top of the valve meets the bottom. They're leaking there when you turn them off, that often gets a lot worse. They look okay. So we're going to isolate on them and see if we can change this pump without draining down. And while we're at it, we're going to tighten this nut here. So obviously to do this, all I've done right now is turn the power off. I'll come back to you once it's all set up. Okay, so we're all set up now. We've got a towel shoved right back to the wall. Flexible bucket, pushed as far back as possible. All the tools we're going to need handy here. And a bung in case there is any issues. This is how we turn these off. I use this. These valves are moving nicely. With valves, you never turn them all the way on, ever, because they will seize in that position. Close this. So once I get to the point where it's tight, I always come off and on a few times, just to help break any debris that might be on the seat. Same with this bottom one. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Turn it off. When I get near tight, I'm just going to work it a bit and tighten it that last bit. I just find they tend not to let by as much if you do that. Okay, so I've tightened up that bottom connection there. If you look how my bucket is, it's almost wedged against the wall. You know, that should catch any water. I'm about to undo the pump valves now, if I can. They look okay, I'm sure that I'll be able to. Shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so Superman's tightened these up, which is completely unnecessary. So that is just some WD-40 on there. So I'll give that a few minutes. So there's a cup of tea here, so I'm gonna have a cup of tea and let that soak in. If that doesn't work, then I will cut the nuts, which is not the way I'd usually like to do it. But that's what I'll do. I'll cut the nuts and split them if I have to. The only thing with that is, if one of these valves hasn't done its job, we're going to have a lot of water coming out. So I might pull this front off this one. Let's see. I might split this front off and see if this one's got the air vent. And then so you can always open the air vent and see if there's a lot of water dripping out. Give you an indication of if the valves have held or not. So this one has it. As you can see, no damage to this. All the clips, all the clips and everything are in place. So that could just be put back on there. There's a big cap there that could fail. Okay, because it was so tight, the big boys come out of the van. So there's a normal backhoe. And there's that Rothenberg Stilson. And my big Knipex Cobras there. So I'm halfway through my tea. This has had maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so this top nut turned. So what I did, I put my whatever, my Knipex on there and my Rothenberg on there, and try and undo both at the same time, and one will always give. I mean, sometimes when they're incredibly tight and I can't change the nuts for whatever reason, I'll whip the head off and I'll use my Rothenberg. There's no room here, but I'll use my Rothenberg to hold the back of the pump. Yeah, or the Knipex to hold the back of the pump. Occasionally you can get grips in on that piece of it there, but that's a good way to do it. Undo the head, pull it off, and you can grab this piece here. But anyway, the top one's undone, so I'm going to undo that, and then I'm going to get on with trying to undo the bottom one. And we'll see how much water we got coming out. Because at the moment nothing's come out really, a couple of drops. Okay, so this is how I got it in the end. The Rothenberg's holding the top of the pump on the threads. It's nicely against the wall there. Obviously still held it so it didn't fall off. And then just undone that with a Knipex. Got that cracked now. A little bit of water dripping out. The valves are only passing a tiny little bit, as you can see. Not much at all, so I'm going to take that pump out and get a new one in there. For all you noobs, just remember there's an arrow on the pump, so if you're unsure, remember which way the arrow points, because sometimes, believe it or not, it ain't even towards the free port. If you're dealing with an old Valent Vantage, just square cylinders, free port is on the return, so the pump pumps away from them. So just make a mental note of that. Okay, so while you watch me clean the valves here, I thought I'd just explain something to you. If you're a homeowner or a DIYer and you want to have a go yourself at this, I wouldn't really recommend it. Most videos you see on YouTube about this are done in perfect situations, in training centres and stuff like that, where the valves are good. In the real world, these situations don't often exist, and usually one or both of the valves will let by. So you need to act quickly not to flood someone's house. This is, I think, the third time I tried to attempt a pump change, and this is the first time both valves held where I was able to film it and get it done in one go. So if you are going to attempt this yourself, I strongly recommend you have a local plumber that you know well, and you phone him and say you're going to give it a go yourself. Is he going to be available if things go wrong to help you out? Because I wouldn't recommend anyone try this personally, because with 20 years behind me of changing pumps, I'm still not a great fan, and I'm always over prepared because things do go wrong quite often. You know, and water spraying out in your face where you're trying to hold it back while get a pump ready and everything else is just not something you want to do. So I do suggest you get a professional in to do this job. Get someone like me, or there's plenty of guys out there, charge reasonable money, because it's not worth flooding your house to save, you know, whatever, 120 quid in labour or something. Just not worth it. So I don't recommend you attempt this at home. Making sure they turn, get you in frame there, just making sure they turn nicely on the seat, and there isn't, sometimes you get lime scale build up on the flat here and they won't turn very nicely on there. And they're fine, okay. So these are on, they are literally hand tight. I put a little bit of grease on the pump threads just to make it nice and easy to do this, which it is. And now we use a little pair of grips to tighten these nuts, a little pair. So I want you to reference this paint, and we'll see how far from hand tight that's actually going to go. Okay, that's hand tight there. The paint's almost in line with the spindle with the valve there, the gate valve. Let's see how much it takes. Okay, that's now tight. There it is, just over 1/4 of a turn from hand tight. That's where that ended up. You don't need to He-Man it. It's a big flange seal which should seal. Okay, now we're going to do the bottom one. Okay, so that one's now tight. That one went a little over quarter of a turn, so it's actually the flat bit is now at the back there. Alright, but that's now tight, and the next guy will be able to undo that without resorting to swearing. It should just undo, you know. So let's see if it leaks, because it's not tight, it's just nipped up. Go on, give us a follow on Instagram. Hear the air gurgling up. Okay, so that's fully open there, okay? Now look, I'll pull it back. I'll wait until I feel it pick up that gate inside. There. This one, exactly the same. Undo it. There we go. So now from there, there we go. And we are not gripping at all. I'm just gonna all looks good. There we go. Let's wire it up and get out of here. Okay, something's just dawned on me about these pumps. So although this side isn't connected, them two, and there are only 3 connections to the pump from the PCB, that is the earth. So these 3, one's got to be a neutral, and one's got to be alive, and I'm guessing the other is a speed sensor. I'm not entirely sure, but that can't just be live, neutral, and earth, I don't think. That's the earth there. I've tested across them. They've all got 183 ohms to one another. Actually, I didn't check all of them, but they didn't. The test across them didn't appear that they were live, neutral, and earth. It appears that's something more to them, that connection there. Okay, thanks a lot guys for watching. Suffice to say, once that was all turned on, the system all worked fine. Sorry I forgot to get extra footage on that. There'll be a link here to watch another video and to subscribe. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Hopefully my uploads will be coming a bit sooner, now that I haven't got as much work. Thanks. Go on, click one of these links. Go on, they really do me a favour. And also, if you absolutely hated this music that plays constantly, I did too. But let me know in the comments. I really appreciate it. If you hate it, I'll definitely drop it because it does my head in trying to edit this. Thanks a lot.